Rowan sat perfectly still while the most dangerous alpha in the realm slept against her shoulder. Around them, the entire council chamber had gone silent. 15 powerful men stared as if the world had stopped turning, while the king's beta slowly rose and mouthed a warning. Whatever you do, do not move. There was only one problem. King Leander Martell was rumored to be incapable of sleeping. Yet somehow, beside an ordinary herbalist, he had done what no healer had managed in more than a year, and no one understood why. Chapter 1. Rowan had not woken that morning expecting to become the Alpha King's personal pillow. Yet somehow, that was exactly what had happened. King Leander Martell's weight rested against her shoulder. His breath came slow and deep beside her neck, each warm exhale sending a shiver down her spine. It had nothing to do with the temperature. It had everything to do with the absurdity of the situation. The king of the entire realm, the warrior who had ended the mountain war through a terrifying combination of brutality and tactical brilliance, was asleep on her. Rowan could feel the steady rise and fall of his chest where his shoulder pressed against hers. From this close, she could see details no ordinary person was ever meant to notice. For one thing, his eyelashes were unfairly long. Not that she should have been studying them, especially when 15 members of the royal council were sitting frozen around the chamber, staring directly at her. Councillor Brannan had stopped speaking in the middle of a sentence. His mouth remained slightly open. A servant standing near the wall clutched a pitcher of water with both hands, as if it were the only reliable object left in existence. Rowan barely dared to breathe. This was not how her afternoon was supposed to have gone. Councillor Brannan's knee had started swelling again. The stubborn old man had refused to visit the infirmary, so Mistress Silvara had sent Rowan upstairs carrying a poultice and strict instructions to make certain he actually used it. That should have been simple. Deliver the treatment, make the councillor apply it, leave. Instead, while Rowan was still in the chamber, the council's discussion had shifted toward contaminated grain reserves. Someone remembered that Rowan worked in the infirmary and asked whether she knew anything about treating mold. Before Rowan fully understood what was happening, she had been waved forward and told to sit beside the king himself so she could explain the safest way to fumigate spoiled grain. The walk toward him had been the most terrifying 30 seconds of Rowan's life. Her pulse fluttered wildly in her throat. King Leander Martell was absurdly tall, with shoulders broad enough to make her believe every story about him breaking men with his bare hands. The sheer physical force of his presence was overwhelming. His dark gray eyes had locked onto her as she approached, and for one humiliating moment, Rowan nearly forgot how walking worked. She lowered herself onto the bench beside him and clasped both hands together in her lap to stop them from trembling. His gaze felt almost tangible, heavy, pressing against her shoulders and chest until taking a full breath became difficult. Those first 2 minutes beside him had been among the most uncomfortable of her life. Then Rowan noticed something else. Dark bruised shadows lay beneath the king's eyes. His cheeks were slightly hollow in a way they should not have been on a man his age. There were rumors about Leander. Whispers that His Majesty never slept. Looking at him from only a few inches away, Rowan suddenly believed every one of them. What she did not expect was for his breathing to slowly deepen, while she explained how mold spread through grain stores. She certainly did not expect his head to tilt toward her, and she absolutely did not expect his temple to settle against her shoulder. The instant his full weight rested on her, Rowan's world narrowed to 2 things. The heat of him soaking through her sleeve, and the impossible fact that the Alpha King had just fallen asleep on a nobody herbalist in front of his entire council. Panic came immediately afterward. What was she supposed to do? The silence spread through the chamber. Every person in the room stared at Rowan with varying levels of disbelief. Corbin, the king's beta, rose slowly from his chair. Their eyes met. He mouthed the words very clearly. "Whatever you do, do not move." Rowan's eyes widened. Easy for him to say. He did not have a mountain-sized warlord pinning him to a wooden bench while desperately needing to sneeze. Rowan held her breath. The urge slowly faded. Barely. 20 minutes passed. To Rowan, it felt closer to 20 years. Her shoulder began to ache. Her spine became painfully stiff. She stared straight ahead at an old moth-eaten banner hanging on the opposite wall and desperately tried not to think about the fact that the king's hair felt much softer than she had imagined. His weight became heavier as he sank further into sleep. Finally, Rowan sent Corbin a desperate look. The beta leaned slightly closer. When he spoke, he kept his voice low enough that only Rowan could hear. The alpha never sleeps, certainly not this long. Rowan blinked. This long? 20 minutes seemed like an eternity to her shoulder, but hardly enough to qualify as proper sleep. She looked down at Leander. Sleep had softened the hard line of his mouth. Without the tension usually carved into his expression, he almost looked gentle. Something strange twisted inside Rowan's chest. Fine. She could endure a little longer. Eventually, after what genuinely felt like an hour, Corbin finally stood. He signaled toward one of the guards. The guard approached with exaggerated caution, moving like a man trying not to wake a sleeping predator. Together, Corbin and the guard carefully shifted Leander away from Rowan and settled him against the back of his chair. The instant his weight disappeared, Rowan nearly cried from relief. Corbin pointed toward the door. Rowan did not need a second invitation. She rose on shaking legs and escaped. She had made it perhaps 2 minutes down the corridor when hurried footsteps sounded behind her. Corbin caught up. "The king is already waking," he said quietly. Rowan stared at him. She had absolutely no idea what response he expected. "My condolences?" Corbin's expression made it clear that this was not the correct answer. "What did you do?" he asked. Rowan frowned. "What? How did you manage it?" "Manage what?" "How did you make him sleep?" Rowan stared at him. "I didn't do anything. I just sat there." Corbin said nothing, but the silence became strangely heavy. "People fall asleep sometimes," Rowan added nervously. "Not him," Corbin muttered. A chill crawled slowly down Rowan's spine. "So the rumors are true?" She lowered her voice. "The ones saying he doesn't sleep?" Corbin ignored the question. "Stay inside the castle." Rowan blinked. "What?" "Do not leave the grounds. I'll contact you shortly." "Wait." Rowan hesitated. "Do you think, is he going to be angry?" Corbin looked back at her. "I don't know how the king will react." His expression grew serious. "So you will tell no one what happened in that chamber. Understood?" Before Rowan could answer, Corbin walked away. She remained alone in the corridor, heart still racing. For the first time, genuine fear settled into her stomach. She had not considered that Leander might be angry. It was not her fault he had fallen asleep. But he was a king. A dangerous one. What if he found sleeping in front of his council humiliating? What if he needed someone to blame? That night Rowan dreamed she was dragged toward an executioner's block for crimes against the crown. Specifically, for allowing herself to be used as the king's pillow. "And not a particularly comfortable one," Leander said in the dream. Then the axe fell. Rowan woke with a gasp. Her heart pounded violently. The sheets had wrapped around her legs like a noose. Gray morning light barely touched the room when someone knocked at her door. Rowan opened it. A royal guard waited outside, his expression carefully neutral. "You have been summoned." Rowan swallowed. "By whom?" The guard looked directly at her. "The king himself." The waiting chamber was small, windowless, and smelled faintly of old timber and nervous sweat. Rowan sat with both hands locked together in her lap. When the door finally opened and Corbin stepped inside, her heart jumped straight into her throat. "Miss Rowan," he said. His voice was calm. Far too calm. "Thank you for waiting." Rowan stood. "Is it true? Am I being summoned by the king?" "Almost." Corbin paused. I summoned you using his authority. That did not make Rowan feel better. Would you be willing to sit with His Majesty during a private meeting? He considered his next words. Think of it as an experiment. Rowan stared at him. Why? The word emerged as an embarrassing squeak. Corbin did not answer. The journey toward the king's private office felt like Rowan was walking toward her own funeral. Her pulse hammered with every step. He is going to recognize me. He is going to remember yesterday. He will know I somehow made the most dangerous man in the realm fall asleep like a child in front of his council. Corbin stopped at a heavy oak door. He opened it. Inside, old parchment scented the air. Thin gray light entered through narrow windows but seemed unable to reach the corners of the room. Behind a massive desk sat King Leander Martell. His head was bent over a report. He did not look up when Corbin entered. He did not acknowledge Rowan either. He barely seemed aware that the door had opened. Rowan's thoughts raced. Does he remember? Does he know? Is he angry? Here, Corbin murmured. He gestured toward a chair positioned along the wall. Rowan sat. The chair creaked beneath her. Leander continued reading. His expression remained perfectly controlled. He paid Rowan no attention. She pressed her palms together. The fireplace crackled. A clock on the mantel ticked loudly. Leander turned another page. Maybe he does not know, Rowan thought. Maybe Corbin never told him. 2 advisors entered, then another. They began discussing matters of state in quiet voices. Leander listened without looking up. He asked questions in a low, steady tone, made notes along the edges of the documents. Rowan watched the clock. 10 minutes passed, then another 10. Suddenly Leander's pen stopped. Only for a moment. A small hesitation, almost like he had forgotten what he was writing. Then he shook his head and continued. Rowan's stomach dropped. Oh no. 5 minutes later, the king's head dipped forward. The movement was subtle. He immediately corrected himself. Leander blinked hard, pressed 2 fingers against his temple, then forced his eyes back onto the page. One advisor kept speaking. Leander nodded, but his eyes were losing focus. Rowan could hear her own pulse. His head dipped again, slower this time. He took longer to recover. His fingers loosened around the pen. The advisor finished speaking and waited. Leander's eyes closed. His head lowered. Then the Alpha King rested his forehead against his folded arms on the desk. His breathing deepened. Slow, steady, peaceful, impossible. The office became completely silent. The advisors stared. One opened his mouth, apparently intending to say something, then reconsidered. Another looked toward Corbin with wide eyes. What? The man whispered. What do we wait, Corbin said quietly. One advisor shifted his feet. Corbin's head snapped toward him. The warning in the beta's eyes made the man instantly freeze. Minutes crawled by. Then an hour. Then 2. Eventually the advisors slipped from the office one by one. Only Corbin, Rowan, and the sleeping king remained. Rowan did not move. Finally, Corbin looked at her. You may go. Rowan stood so quickly her knees nearly failed. Then she fled. She stumbled into the infirmary with her thoughts in complete chaos. Twice. Leander had fallen asleep twice. Both times during meetings. Both times while Rowan was present. What if he believed she had witnessed something dangerous? What if sleeping in front of his advisors exposed a weakness a king could not afford? Powerful men were not supposed to simply collapse asleep at their desks. Yet he had. And Rowan had seen it. Mistress Silvara was grinding herbs at the workbench when Rowan entered. The older healer looked up immediately. What happened? Rowan opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Silvara's expression sharpened. Rowan, breathe. Rowan inhaled. What happened? The king fell asleep. Silvara's eyebrows rose. The beta took me to his office and told me to sit there, so I sat there. I didn't touch anything. I didn't even talk to him. He was working. and then suddenly he just… Rowan waved helplessly. He passed out. Silvara remained silent. It happened yesterday too, Rowan continued. He fell asleep on my shoulder. Her voice cracked. What if he is angry because I saw? Silvara came around the workbench. Rowan. Sit. I can't sit. I need to. Sit. Rowan sat. Silvara walked to the infirmary door, glanced into the corridor, then shut it. What I am about to tell you stays inside this room. Rowan grimaced. That sentence has never introduced anything pleasant. Silvara ignored her. The rumors are true. Rowan went still. The king does not sleep. Not properly. Never longer than a few minutes. Silvara folded her arms. It has been happening since he returned from the mountain war. More than a year. A year? Rowan stared at her. We have attempted everything, Silvara said. Every herb I possess, every potion, every treatment I know. Her mouth tightened. Nothing works. He closes his eyes, and something forces him awake again within minutes. Every time. Rowan's mind reeled. That isn't possible. A year without sleep would kill someone. A normal human, yes. Silvara's gaze sharpened. He is an alpha, a shifter. His body has kept him alive far longer than any ordinary man could survive. She paused. But even Leander has limits. Rowan's stomach tightened. Corbin believes the king may not survive another 6 months. The room seemed to tilt. He has helped Leander conceal the severity of the condition from the court. Rowan stared at her hands. But he slept yesterday. Silvara watched her. For how long? Almost an hour. And today? 2 hours. Silence filled the infirmary. Silvara suddenly stepped toward Rowan. What herbs had you handled yesterday before going into the council chamber? Rowan blinked. What? What were you carrying? The willow bark poultice for Councillor Brannan's knee, and I had been sorting dried lavender earlier. She frowned. Nothing unusual. And today? What was I carrying? Yes. Nothing. Silvara walked toward the shelves. There are uncommon sedatives that work through scent. Extremely uncommon, but real. It could be something in your natural scent, combined with residue from the herbs you handle regularly. Rowan stared. Wait. Her voice became strained. You think he fell asleep because of me? Silvara turned. Don't you? Rowan bit the inside of her lip. Until now, she had desperately wanted to believe she had simply been standing in the wrong place at the wrong moment. But once Silvara said the theory aloud, Rowan understood. Corbin believed it too. That was why he had placed Rowan in the king's office. Oh gods. Someone knocked. Both women froze. Silvara opened the door. Corbin stood outside. Miss Rowan, he said politely, may I speak with you? Rowan followed him into the corridor. Her legs felt strangely weak. The king woke less than 1 minute after you left his office, Corbin said. The implication landed heavily. Just like yesterday, Rowan whispered. Something shifted behind Corbin's calm expression. Rowan swallowed. Does the king know? Oh, yes. Corbin looked at her steadily. He knows. Rowan's heartbeat accelerated. And he requires your presence tonight. Corbin paused. At sunset. Another pause. In his private chambers. Rowan's heart seemed to stop completely. Chapter 2. That evening, a guard escorted Rowan through parts of the palace she had never seen. These were the upper corridors where nobles kept private apartments and servants knew not to linger. Rowan tried to calm herself. Why was she being summoned to his chambers? Her imagination immediately became dangerous. What if he wanted her in his bed? Heat rushed into her face. No, absolutely not. Kings did not randomly summon herbalists for that. Probably. Still, an image entered her mind before she could stop it. Leander ordering her to loosen her dress. His voice low, commanding. His hands. Rowan violently shook her head. Stop. The guard halted before 2 carved wooden doors and knocked. Enter, Leander called from inside. The doors opened. Rowan stepped into the largest bedchamber she had ever seen. Weapons covered the walls. Swords, a longbow, a shield bearing the Martell crest. Yet Rowan barely noticed any of them, because in the center of the chamber stood an enormous bed. His bed. She was standing perhaps 5 feet away from it, and she still had no idea why. Leander stood near the window. At the sound of Rowan entering, he turned. "Your Majesty, I'm so sorry," Rowan blurted. The king frowned. "I swear I won't tell anyone you fell asleep on my shoulder." His frown deepened. "What?" "I mean, I did tell Mistress Silvara, but she already knew you had problems sleeping because she is your healer." Rowan continued before her brain could regain control. "And I did not tell her you sort of drooled." Absolute silence. Leander cleared his throat. "Thank you." He looked deeply uncomfortable. It was the first time Rowan had heard him speak directly to her. His voice was lower than she expected. Quieter. A shiver moved along her spine. More silence. Leander folded his arms across his chest. "This is a practical arrangement." His tone turned clipped and formal. "What happens inside these rooms is not discussed outside them. Understood?" Rowan nodded. Unfortunately, she still did not know what the arrangement was. "Sire, I'm not." Heat crawled up her throat. Leander frowned. "You are not what?" "I'm saving myself for marriage." The sentence came out far louder than Rowan intended. Leander blinked slowly. "What exactly do you believe is about to happen?" Rowan opened her mouth, closed it. She had no answer. Apparently, her expression said enough. "You will sleep here," Leander said, sounding almost startled. I will sleep here." He paused. "That is all." Rowan looked down. At the foot of the bed, someone had arranged a narrow sleeping pallet with a thin pillow and a blanket that had clearly come from the servants' quarters. Oh. Humiliation flooded her. Of course. He was the king. If Leander wanted a woman in that way, he could choose practically anyone. Someone beautiful, someone important, someone appropriate. Rowan wanted the stone floor to swallow her. She hurried toward the pallet and knelt. "What time do you usually retire, Your Majesty?" "When I can no longer avoid it." Rowan smoothed the blanket. "Do you prefer candles or darkness?" "Darkness." His voice came from closer than Rowan expected. She glanced up. He had moved beside the bed. "Should I bank the fire?" Leander sighed. The exhaustion in the sound made Rowan's chest hurt. "No." She sat back on her heels, suddenly unsure what to do with herself. Leander crossed to the bed and sat. The mattress sank beneath his weight. His hands rested on his thighs. Even sitting down, every muscle in his body seemed tense. Rowan frowned. "You aren't removing your jacket?" His gaze snapped toward her. Sharp. Unreadable. Rowan immediately nodded. "That is fine. You do whatever works for you, sire." Something almost amused flickered across his face, then disappeared. Leander lay back fully dressed, boots still on, and stared at the ceiling. Rowan moved around the room, extinguishing candles. One flame after another vanished beneath her fingers. The chamber darkened. She lay on the narrow pallet with her back rigid and her hands folded over her stomach. She could hear Leander breathing. Deep, deliberate breaths. Controlled. Minutes passed. Rowan focused on the crackling fireplace. She counted breaths. Counted seconds. Tried to relax. Failed. More minutes slipped by. Then something changed. Leander's breathing became deeper, less controlled. Rowan slowly turned her head. His hand had relaxed against the mattress. The constant tension in his shoulders was gone. He was asleep. 20 minutes. That was all it had taken. The flames shifted across his face as the fire burned lower. Gold became amber. Amber faded toward red. Leander continued breathing evenly. Rowan could not stop watching him. He was beautiful. But more than that, he looked peaceful. Something settled inside Rowan. a quiet sense of wonder. Then his breathing changed again. Not deeper this time. Rougher. Rowan sat up. Leander's head snapped to the side. His hands tightened into fists. A low sound came from his throat. His entire body became rigid. A nightmare. Without thinking, Rowan scrambled up and reached toward him. "Your Majesty." The instant her hand touched his shoulder, everything vanished. Rowan blinked. She was no longer inside the king's chamber. Cold surrounded her. Fog pressed in from every direction. Thick. Gray. Completely still. The air smelled like damp stone and burned ash. Tall trees surrounded her, but something about them was wrong. They were too thin, too tall. Their bare branches clawed at the pale sky like skeletal fingers. "Where am I?" Her voice barely escaped. The silence felt suffocating. No wind, no birds, nothing. Then something shifted inside the fog. A presence, patient, hungry, watching. "Hello?" Rowan's voice disappeared into the mist. She turned. Leander stood about 10 feet away. He was staring into the fog, toward something Rowan could not see. His expression was completely blank, but both hands were clenched at his sides. His knuckles had turned white. "Your Majesty?" He did not respond. Rowan stepped toward him. "Your Majesty." Still nothing. The unseen thing in the fog moved closer. Rowan heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming between the trees. Leander did not move. Panic rose inside Rowan. She reached him, grabbed his hand, and pulled. The world snapped back. The king's bedchamber. The dying fire. Warm amber light. Rowan stood beside the bed with one hand still gripping Leander's arm. He remained asleep. His breathing had returned to normal. His face was peaceful, as if nothing had happened. Rowan slowly released him. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She stared at the sleeping king. What just happened? Chapter 3. Rowan opened her eyes to the dim gray light of morning. Someone was watching her. She looked toward the window. Leander stood there already dressed. His broad figure was outlined by pale dawn. Rowan quickly sat up. "Your Majesty? Is something wrong?" He seemed almost startled. A faint flush climbed his neck. Not at all. Silence stretched awkwardly between them. Then he said, "This arrangement will continue until further notice. The infirmary will accommodate your absence in the evenings." Rowan blinked. She was still half asleep. Then realization struck. He had slept through the night. No more thrashing. No waking in terror. But had there actually been a nightmare? Had that strange world of fog and dead trees truly happened? Maybe Rowan had dreamed everything. "So you slept well?" she asked carefully. Leander's color deepened. He looked toward the window. He cleared his throat. "Yes. Thank you." Then, more formally, "Thank you for your services." His discomfort was almost painful to witness. "My pleasure, Your Majesty." Rowan immediately froze. "I mean, not pleasure. That sounded wrong." She waved vaguely toward her pallet. "What I mean is that I am going to need a better pillow. That one is an insult to the entire concept of pillows." One corner of Leander's mouth moved. Barely. But Rowan saw it. She returned to the infirmary feeling dazed. Silvara looked up as soon as Rowan entered. "What happened?" Rowan told her. "Almost everything." She did not mention the fog, or the strange trees, or the sense of some hungry presence waiting in the dark. That had obviously been an anxiety dream caused by the absurdity of spending a night in the Alpha King's private chamber. Before Rowan finished explaining, Corbin appeared at the door. "The king is pleased," he told Silvara. Then he glanced toward Rowan. "We need to discover why this is effective. If the cause can be reproduced, perhaps we can create an actual treatment." Silvara nodded thoughtfully. "I will investigate." Corbin turned toward Rowan. "Until then, the current arrangement continues. every evening. Apparently, Rowan had no choice. Soon, their strange arrangement developed into a routine. In the mornings, Rowan tried to wake before Leander. At least, that was what she told herself. But each day she lingered a little longer, watching the king sleep in soft dawn light before quietly slipping from the room. During the daytime, they rarely crossed paths. Leander governed the realm. Rowan treated burns, twisted ankles, stomach complaints, headaches, and every other ordinary problem that came through the infirmary. At night, she returned to his chambers. The miserable floor pallet was eventually replaced by a narrow bed. Rowan arranged her belongings. Sometimes she attempted conversation. Leander usually responded with grunts or very short answers. Then they slept. There were no more nightmares. No more visions of fog. No strange worlds. Nothing. Though little things slowly began changing. A candle appeared on the table beside Rowan's bed. The fireplace was always freshly stoked before she arrived. One evening, Rowan unpinned her hair and looked toward the candle. "Thank you." Leander glanced up from the report he was reading. "For what?" "The candle you leave burning for me." His ears turned faintly pink. "What candle?" Rowan pressed her lips together to hide her smile. Later that night, she could hear him shifting restlessly. His body needed sleep desperately, yet some part of him still seemed unable to surrender to it. So Rowan began talking. She did not plan it. She simply started telling him stories. Unimportant stories. Like the apprentice who had once mixed yarrow with feverfew and accidentally produced a poultice that turned a guardsman's entire arm purple. Rowan kept talking in the dark. At some point, Leander stopped moving. His breathing evened. He fell asleep. The next morning, as Rowan gathered her things, Leander spoke. "That apprentice." She looked at him. "The one responsible for the purple arm." "Yes?" "Did the color eventually disappear?" Rowan stared. He had listened. He remembered. "After 3 days." She smiled. Though the apprentice was in terrible trouble. Leander studied her. Then he asked, "You were the apprentice, weren't you?" Rowan froze. "What?" "No." One of his eyebrows lifted. "I would never." He kept staring. Rowan sighed. "Yes. Fine. It was me." She lifted her hands defensively. "But in my defense," Leander laughed. The sound stunned Rowan into silence. She had never heard the Alpha King laugh before. For a moment she simply stared at him. Then she smiled too. "We believe it is scent-related," Silvara told Rowan several weeks later. Rowan frowned. "My scent?" The royal healers consulted old records. Silvara organized several papers on the work table. There are rare documented cases of wolves whose natural pheromonal signature creates a calming effect, something similar to an omega's soothing influence. Rowan listened carefully. "When combined with the residue from herbs you frequently handle, lavender, chamomile, and similar plants, it may create an effect that the king's condition cannot easily overpower when you are nearby." Silvara hesitated. Then added, "The evidence also suggests that maintaining physical contact during sleep may produce deeper and longer rest." Rowan stared at her. "Are you telling me I should cuddle the king?" Silvara's expression did not change. "I am saying that if you truly want to help him, you may need to sleep closer." Leander reacted exactly as Rowan expected. He refused. Absolutely not. He would not be cuddled. He was not an infant. He did not need to be held while sleeping. His resistance lasted 2 nights. On the second night, another nightmare struck. Rowan instinctively took his hand. Leander's fingers immediately closed around hers. Hard. Desperate. Within minutes, his body relaxed. The nightmare released him. The following morning, Leander said only one word. "Fine." And that was how Rowan found herself preparing to sleep in the Alpha King's bed. That evening she stood inside his room, staring at the enormous mattress. "You have 4 pillows." Leander looked at her. "Yes." They are arranged like defensive fortifications. Is that a problem? Rowan opened her mouth, then forgot what she planned to say, because Leander had started removing his shirt. For weeks, Rowan had carefully looked away whenever he changed. She had focused intensely on walls, windows, books, anything. Tonight, however, she was about to climb into the same bed with him. There was nowhere safe for her eyes. Leander pulled his shirt over his shoulders. Rowan stared. His upper body was even broader than she had realized. Powerful shoulders narrowed toward his waist. Muscle shifted beneath his skin when he moved. Then he noticed her. Leander paused. I can put the shirt back on if that would make you more comfortable. No. Rowan answered much too quickly. Absolutely not. She winced. I mean, you don't need to. Unless you want to. Whatever you prefer. Heat covered her entire face. Leander sat slowly on the edge of the mattress. His expression softened. Thank you. Rowan looked at him. For being here, he continued, and I am sorry that you are required to do this. It is my job. Rowan forced herself to keep her gaze above his shoulders. I am a healer. Leander gave her an almost gentle look. I doubt your official responsibilities include sharing a bed with a man who is not your lover. The word lover made Rowan's entire face burn. Or being accused of becoming the king's mistress when you have done nothing of the sort, Leander added. I definitely have not, Rowan replied far too loudly. They stared at one another. The bed was enormous, yet suddenly it seemed much smaller. One mattress, 2 people, and one of them was the Alpha King, without a shirt. We should sleep, Leander finally said. Absolutely. Rowan sounded breathless. That is why we are here. The problem was Leander himself. He was large. The bed was large. Yet his presence somehow filled every available inch. Rowan could feel his body heat from several feet away. His scent surrounded her. Strong. Warm. Impossible to ignore. In the darkness, Leander spoke. You are extremely rigid. I am making an effort not to touch you. I appreciate that. You are welcome. Silence returned. Heavy. Charged. Then the mattress shifted. Leander moved. A hand reached through the darkness and found hers. His fingers closed around Rowan's. Warm. Calloused. Solid. The contact sent a sudden sensation through her arm and settled deep inside her chest. Rowan squeezed his hand. Her heart beat so loudly she felt certain he could hear it. Within minutes, Leander fell asleep. His breathing became deep and peaceful. Rowan remained awake beside him, trying desperately to calm her pulse. It took a very long time. Eventually, sleep claimed her. At some point during the night, Rowan's fingers loosened. Their hands separated. Only minutes later, Leander jolted awake. His breathing turned sharp, panicked. His body went rigid. I'm here, Rowan whispered. She reached for him. But Leander did not take her hand. Instead, he moved closer. Strong arms wrapped around Rowan and pulled her against his chest. The movement was instinctive. Half asleep, barely conscious. He simply gathered her against himself as if her body belonged there. Leander relaxed almost immediately. Rowan did not fall asleep again for a very long time. Chapter 4. 1 week later, Rowan woke inside the Alpha King's arms. For several blissful seconds, she did not remember where she was. Leander's chest rested warm against her back. One powerful arm circled her waist. His breath stirred her hair. Their bodies fit together so naturally that it felt almost frightening. Then Rowan became fully awake. Panic rushed in. What will happen when he wakes? She tried to move carefully. Slowly. The instant she shifted, Leander's arm tightened. A low sound escaped him. Still asleep, he pulled her closer and tucked her more securely against his chest. Rowan barely stopped herself from making a sound. She could feel everything. His bare skin where her nightgown had shifted. the steady beat of his heart behind her, the possessive spread of his hand over her stomach, and beneath her embarrassment was something else. A pull, deep, aching, insistent. It told Rowan that even this closeness was not enough, that she needed more. Her wolf, which had remained quiet almost her entire life, stirred restlessly beneath her skin. Behind Rowan, Leander's breathing changed. He was waking. His body went still. His breath caught when he realized how they were positioned. Rowan squeezed her eyes shut. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of releasing her, Leander pulled Rowan closer, until no space remained between them. He buried his face against the side of her neck, and inhaled, deeply, as though instinct had overridden every other thought. A low groan vibrated through his chest. Then he suddenly released her. Leander moved away so quickly that Rowan nearly rolled into the empty space he left behind. He crossed the chamber. A door slammed. The dressing room. Rowan remained in the tangled sheets with her heart racing. What had just happened? The warmth when they touched. The hollow feeling when they separated. The constant awareness of Leander that followed Rowan everywhere. Every shifter knew about fated bonds. The pull. Recognition. That bone-deep certainty that one particular person belonged with you. But such bonds belonged to people who mattered. People with families, names, bloodlines, rank, not foundlings, not women like Rowan. She had no lineage anyone cared about. No status, no family name, so the growing need to remain near Leander, to touch him, breathe his scent, feel him beside her, could not possibly mean what Rowan feared it meant. It could not. And yet her wolf disagreed. The animal side of Rowan that had been quiet for years was suddenly restless. That night, when they climbed into bed, Leander looked toward her. "Are you all right?" Rowan blinked. "Yes." She glanced at him. "Why?" Leander hesitated. "You are not usually this quiet." Silence stretched between them. Then he added, "You generally talk a great deal." Rowan frowned. "An excessive amount, actually." Her stomach dropped. "Oh." She looked away. "Sorry." "No." Leander cleared his throat. "That is not what I meant." Even in dim firelight, Rowan saw color climb along his neck. "I like it," he admitted. Their eyes met. Rowan suddenly felt exposed. Leander smelled very good. Far too good. Her mouth became dry. "Good night," he said roughly. "Yes, thank you." Leander frowned. "What?" Rowan blinked. "I mean, thank you, and good night to you too." He hesitated, then reached for her hand. "No," he said softly. His voice had changed. "Thank you." The sincerity behind those words did something dangerous to Rowan's heart. She struggled to fall asleep. Eventually, her eyes closed. When Rowan opened them again, gray fog surrounded her. Her stomach dropped. She knew this place. The air smelled like wet stone and ash. The silence pressed against her. Rowan walked forward. Her bare feet made no sound against ground she could not properly see. Then she found Leander. He stood ahead of her, motionless, watching something. Rowan followed his gaze. Black water stretched into the fog. A lake, perhaps a pond. Its surface was smooth as glass. Then something moved. Rowan narrowed her eyes. A wolf. It was sinking, struggling desperately in the dark water. Its movements were weakening. Then Rowan saw another, and another. 3. More. Wolves drowning beneath the black surface. Her breath caught. She looked toward Leander. "We need to leave." Rowan grabbed his arm. He did not respond. One drowning wolf suddenly changed. The transformation was terrible, painful. Beast became human. A hand broke through the surface and reached toward Leander. "Please." The voice was distorted, desperate. Rowan grabbed Leander's hand. She pulled. Rowan woke with a gasp. She shot upright. Sweat cooled against her skin. Her heart slammed wildly. She was back inside the king's chamber. Leander was awake beside her, sitting upright, watching. There was something in his face Rowan had never seen before. Sadness, resignation. Bad dream? He asked quietly. Rowan pushed damp hair away from her face. Fog. Leander went still. Black water, those strange trees, something hiding in the darkness. She swallowed. Did you see it too? Leander froze, then frowned. What? Rowan stared at him. You were there. The words spilled out quickly. In my dream. Except it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like somewhere real. She drew a breath. And this was not the first time. Leander's face lost its color. You have been there before? The horror in his expression confirmed everything. Rowan stared. You have too. He said nothing. That is where you go when you sleep, isn't it? Leander looked away. That is why you cannot sleep. He moved to the edge of the bed and buried his face in his hands. Rowan knew she was right. Why did you never tell anyone? She became angry now. The healers have been trying to help you. Corbin has been trying to help you. I have been trying to help you. Leander remained silent. You should have told us. It would not have changed anything. His voice was flat. Rowan gripped the sheets. You don't know that. She leaned forward. I can follow you there. Doesn't that change something? If we understand what is happening, perhaps we can. Leander flinched. You should leave. The sentence cut through her. Rowan stared. You want me to leave? His shoulders were rigid. Go. He still would not face her. Rowan shook her head. I thought... Leander interrupted. I do not want you trapped there too. I wasn't trapped. What happens if you are next time? He finally turned. What if you are not helping me? What if I am infecting you with whatever this is? Rowan moved toward him. Your Majesty, we do not know. Go. She reached out. Leander caught her wrist before she could touch him. His eyes met hers. It is an order. Leave. The final word came out as a roar. It echoed through the stone chamber. Rowan recoiled as though he had struck her. They stared at one another. Then Rowan grabbed her robe with shaking hands. She ran. The door slammed behind her. Outside, alone in the empty hallway, Rowan pressed herself against the cold wall. Her chest hurt so badly she struggled to breathe. Leander had sent her away. Maybe he had done it because he wanted to protect her. But he had rejected her all the same, and Rowan had no idea how to fix it. Chapter 5. 7 nights passed. A full week since Leander had ordered Rowan out of his chambers. 7 nights without sleeping beside him. Without feeling his warmth. Without hearing his breathing turn peaceful in the darkness. For 7 days, Rowan saw almost nothing of him. She was not allowed into his rooms. He seemed to have disappeared from the palace entirely. The entire castle felt colder without him. More than anything, Rowan was frightened. If Leander was no longer sleeping, then every night he was returning to that terrible place. Alone. With no one there to pull him free. Rowan could not bear to finish the thought. She found Silvara in a back room of the infirmary grinding dried valerian root. There is something you need to know. Silvara looked up. About His Majesty. Silvara set the pestle aside. Tell me. He goes somewhere when he sleeps. Rowan closed the door. Somewhere strange. She explained quickly. A place filled with fog. The air smells like stone and ash. Everything is silent. Too silent. Rowan swallowed. I have been there twice. Silvara listened without interrupting. It feels like death. Rowan's voice dropped. That place feels like death, Silvara. The healer remained quiet for several seconds. Then she said, It sounds like a curse. Rowan stared. A curse? Magic that affects the mind. Silvara wiped her hands on her apron. You have never seen His Majesty physically vanish while sleeping, have you? No. Then, perhaps this place is a prison for consciousness rather than the body. Silvara frowned thoughtfully. And prisons like that usually involve magic. She studied Rowan. What interests me is that you can enter it too. Rowan stiffened. Do you know why? No. The answer came too quickly. Rowan did not want to explain the pull she felt toward Leander. She did not want to describe the constant ache beneath her ribs, or the memory of him burying his face against her neck, the hunger in the way he had breathed her scent. What if Silvara told Rowan she was imagining everything? So she kept quiet. Her body betrayed her anyway. Without Leander, Rowan became increasingly restless. Her wolf was agitated. She could not settle, could barely focus. Some days it felt difficult to breathe properly. Then came headaches, strong enough that Rowan worked with the curtains closed because even sunlight hurt her eyes. After that came a crushing pressure in her chest. And beneath everything was constant anxiety. No name, no obvious cause, no cure. Occasionally, Rowan caught glimpses of Leander, dark hair disappearing across a courtyard. His tall figure at the end of a hallway, but he never looked at her, never met her eyes, never acknowledged her existence. The ache worsened. By the 7th day, Rowan struggled simply to remain standing. That afternoon, Counselor Brannan summoned her. His knee had swollen again. Rowan collected her supplies. Even simple movements required too much effort. The hallway toward the council chamber seemed impossibly long. The door stood open. Voices drifted through. Brannan complaining, Corbin responding calmly. Then Rowan heard another voice. Her heart lurched. Leander. He was there. Rowan stopped in the doorway. The king sat at the head of the table among maps and correspondence. She drew a breath, then entered. Your medicine, counselor. Rowan walked toward Brannan. Every nerve in her body was aware of Leander sitting to her left. She looked at him as she passed. He did not lift his head. His eyes remained fixed on the document in front of him. Jaw tight, back rigid, as if Rowan did not exist. Pain tightened inside her chest. She reached Brannan's chair and placed her supplies on the table. Glass softly clicked against wood. Her hands shook as she prepared the compress. Across the chamber she could feel Leander, every breath, every movement. But still he refused to look at her. Rowan tried again. She lifted her eyes while working, willed him to notice. Nothing. Leander turned another page. The pressure inside Rowan became unbearable. Her vision blurred at the edges. Gray shadows crept inward. The chamber suddenly felt too warm. The air too heavy. Counselor, if you could just... She reached toward Brannan's knee. The room tilted. It happened all at once. White, gray, then black. A bottle shattered against the floor. Someone shouted her name. Rowan! The voice was sharp, terrified, devastated. She would have recognized it anywhere. Then Rowan was falling. Strong arms caught her before she struck the stone. She felt herself dragged against a hard chest. One hand supported her head. Beneath her ear, a heart thundered frantically. Then everything disappeared. Rowan woke to dried herbs and clean linen. The infirmary. She blinked several times, then froze. Leander sat beside the bed. His elbows rested on his knees. His face was buried in his hands. When Rowan moved, he immediately looked up. The relief crossing his face was so intense it stole her breath. You're awake. His hands lifted as though he wanted to touch her, then stopped before reaching her. Rowan stared. Your Majesty, Leander was already standing. What is wrong? He leaned over her. Have you been eating? Are you sick? His gray eyes moved rapidly over Rowan's face. Then he turned toward Silvara, who stood beside the door. The head healer refused to tell me anything. Doctor-patient confidentiality, Silvara replied. A dangerous growl came from Leander's chest. I deserve to know what is wrong with my... He stopped abruptly. His jaw tightened. With Rowan. Then he looked back at her. Have you woken there again? Rowan blinked. Where? In the hollow. The what? Leander looked uncomfortable. It is what I call. He gestured vaguely. The place. The foggy place? Rowan frowned. Well, hollow does sound better. A brief sound escaped him, almost a snort. But his concern remained. Have you been there again? Silvara now looked interested too. Rowan knew she should answer honestly, but Leander had refused to tell anyone anything. He had refused help, and now Rowan was unconscious in an infirmary, while Leander looked as though he had not properly rested all week. So perhaps honesty was overrated. Rowan produced the saddest expression she could manage. Maybe. Leander went still. I'm not sure. She touched her forehead dramatically. Everything feels rather blurry. Leander's expression fell. Behind him, Silvara looked at Rowan and silently mouthed one word. Sneaky. Leander lowered his head. I knew it. Guilt crushed his expression. This is my fault. Silvara immediately stepped forward. Your Majesty, perhaps this would be an appropriate moment to finally explain this hollow to the healers who have spent more than a year trying to save your life. Leander became defensive. Silvara softened her tone. For Rowan's sake, if nothing else. That broke something in him. Leander sank back into the chair. His shoulders dropped. The steel claw pack. His voice became quiet. Rogues living near our borders. Their alpha was Ragnar. Rowan listened. He believed the crown had abandoned the border territories. Leander's hands tightened. His wolves attacked settlements. They raided villages. They murdered innocent people. He drew a breath. I attempted negotiation. A pause. It failed. Ragnar did not want a treaty. He wanted blood. Leander looked toward the floor. So there was blood. His jaw flexed. There was war. He continued slowly. I ordered our forces toward the Greyclaw settlement after every alternative had failed. His voice became quieter. There was a battle. Long silence. Then barely above a whisper, there was so much blood. Silvara watched him carefully. Is that where Ragnar died? Yes. Leander did not look at her. I offered him surrender. He refused. Rowan watched the weight of those memories settle over him. Then Leander said, there was a witch. Silvara's expression changed. Vale, Ragnar's mother. Leander's mouth tightened. She cursed me. His voice turned rough. She spat the words through blood and broken teeth. Leander looked into the distance. Every night the dead will find you. Rowan stared at him. You knew? Leander glanced at her. You knew your sleeplessness came from a curse and never told anyone? It would not have changed anything. His voice carried old exhaustion. Silvara stepped closer. I know of Vale. Leander looked at her. And I know something about this kind of curse. The healer frowned. The magic itself should not be this powerful. Leander remained silent. It should have weakened by now. She crossed her arms. At minimum, it should not still be preventing you from sleeping this completely. Silvara's fingers tapped against her sleeve. Something is sustaining it. Rowan reached for Leander's hand. She wrapped her fingers around his. Please. He looked down at their joined hands. Let me help you. Rowan's voice softened. Let us help. Leander slowly pulled away. I will fight the curse myself. He stood. But I will not allow you to sleep near me again. Rowan stared. What? I will not risk dragging you back into that place. But, no. His tone hardened. He put distance between them. This is not open for discussion. Then he left. Rowan watched the doorway. Silvara waited until his footsteps disappeared. Then she turned. Pretending you were having nightmares. Rowan looked guilty. Silvara raised one eyebrow. Crafty. He would never have told us otherwise. Silvara sighed. You two are remarkably similar. Rowan blinked. You are comparing me with the king? Yes. How? Silvara gave her a knowing look. You are sick too. Rowan stiffened. I'm not sick. I am just slightly. You fainted. Rowan closed her mouth. Directly into your king's arms, Silvara continued. He carried you here while growling at anyone who came too close. Rowan's heartbeat accelerated. Silvara studied her. It does not require genius to understand what is happening. Rowan swallowed. And what exactly do you think is happening? You share a bond. Silence. You and Leander. Rowan stared. It has not fully formed, but it is already pulling you toward one another. Silvara's tone became serious. The more both of you resist it, the worse that pull will become. Heat entered Rowan's face. No. She shook her head. He does not want me. Rowan. He literally ordered me away from his bed. Silvara rolled her eyes. Because he is trying to protect you from his curse. She leaned back. Badly, I might add. Rowan said nothing. The bond is forming whether either of you accepts it or not. Silvara's expression turned grave. But there is something else. Rowan's stomach tightened. If the curse continues, Leander will die. And because your bond is already developing, Silvara held Rowan's gaze. You may die with him. Chapter 6. Rowan shook her head. No. She stared at Silvara. We do not have a bond. Her voice became uncertain. That is not possible. Silvara gave her a look that clearly said she was fooling no one. Do not lie to me, child. Rowan's throat tightened. If this continues and he dies, the bond may make it impossible for you to survive his death. Silvara paused. But you may still be able to save yourself. Rowan went still. Save myself? Silvara sighed. Rowan, ever since someone left you on the castle steps as an infant, you have spent your life trying not to take up space. The words landed painfully. You try not to inconvenience anyone. Silvara took Rowan's hand. Worse, you have spent your whole life trying to prove you are useful. Rowan swallowed against a growing lump in her throat. You help everyone, because somewhere inside yourself, you believe usefulness is the only reason anyone should keep you. Silvara squeezed her fingers. But you are more than what you can provide to other people. Rowan lowered her eyes. You deserve a life of your own. Silvara took a slow breath. Leave. Rowan looked up sharply. Protect yourself. She stared in disbelief. I will not abandon His Majesty. Rowan, if we really share a bond, then leaving would hurt him while he is already fighting a curse. Her voice grew fierce. I will not leave him to die. Silvara exhaled. You love him. Rowan did not answer. She did not need to. The truth hung between them. Terrifying. Unavoidable. Silvara shook her head. He will not let you help him. She released Rowan's hand. You cannot save someone who refuses to be saved. Rowan's jaw tightened. Watch me. She found Corbin inside his office. The room was small and lined with maps. My lord, forgive me for coming without warning. Rowan had prepared an entire argument on the walk there. Corbin interrupted before she could begin. I was actually about to send for you. Rowan continued anyway, because stopping would only make her more nervous. I know I am only a nobody herbalist. Well, Corbin said, leaning back. That part is technically true. Rowan ignored him. But His Majesty is being a stubborn ass and... She stopped, blinking. Corbin had said something. Wait. Rowan frowned. What did you just say? Corbin looked amused. You are the king's mate. Rowan stared at him. You and Leander share a bond. He said it as casually as if discussing tomorrow's weather. It is probably part of why you have been able to help him sleep. Rowan felt completely exposed. Yet strangely, Corbin's acknowledgement also touched her. Someone else saw it. Someone believed it was real. Continue, Corbin said. He gestured toward her. Right. Rowan cleared her throat. Do you think he knows? About the bond? Yes. Corbin smiled faintly. Knowing Leander, he is probably trying to pretend it does not exist because he believes that will protect you. That sounds exactly right, Rowan muttered. Corbin's mouth twitched. You need help getting through to him? Yes. This time Corbin actually smiled. All right, Rowan straightened. But once you are inside his chamber, convincing him to let you stay will be your responsibility. Later that night, one of Corbin's guards escorted Rowan through the dark palace. Most of the household was already asleep. Their footsteps echoed through the corridors. With every step toward Leander's rooms, Rowan's heart beat faster. The guard opened the chamber door, then left her alone. Rowan stood in the center of the room. For days she had desperately wanted to return here. She had dreamed about it, ached for it. Now that she had finally succeeded, uncertainty overwhelmed her. What if Leander rejected her again? She walked toward the bed and sat. Her fingers moved over the dark coverlet. The entire room smelled like him. Comfort and pain at the same time. Rowan waited. Eventually the door opened. Leander entered. The instant he saw her, he froze. Rowan? Disbelief filled his voice. She stood quickly. Your Majesty. His hands clenched at his sides. It looked as though every instinct in him wanted to reach for her, while sheer willpower held him still. Rowan, you cannot be here. His voice tightened. It is not safe. Rowan met his eyes. It is not safe for me to stay away. Leander looked torn. I will be fine. You should. How do you know I will be fine? Rowan moved closer. Leander went rigid. His pupils widened. His breathing changed. The less time we spend together, the safer you will be. His voice was almost pleading now. Rowan stopped directly in front of him. That is not true. She slowly raised one hand. Leander had every opportunity to step away. He did not. Rowan touched his cheek. His eyes closed immediately. We share a bond. Her thumb gently traced his cheekbone. You and me. Leander opened his eyes. Which is exactly why you should not be here. His voice was strained. You should run. Rowan studied him. So you knew. Leander gave a bitter laugh. Of course I knew. His hand covered hers where it rested against his face. How could I not know? He looked exhausted. Your scent has haunted me for days. Rowan stopped breathing. I smell you in the council chamber. In corridors you have not walked through. His voice roughened. I smell you on my sheets even though you have been gone for a week. He stepped closer. I wake up reaching for you. Leander's control was beginning to crack. And you are not there. His fingers tightened around hers. It feels like I am dying. Rowan's heart pounded. I cannot think. His breathing grew uneven. I cannot focus. Leander. I cannot. Rowan kissed him. She rose onto her toes and pressed her mouth against his. Whatever Leander had been about to say vanished. His response was immediate. Both hands came up around her face. He tilted her exactly where he wanted her. The kiss deepened. We should not. Leander barely managed the words against her mouth. Yet he was moving forward. Rowan moved backward until her shoulders met the wall. Do you not want this? She whispered. Leander gave a low, rough laugh. Can you truly not feel how much I want you? His breath warmed her lips. But wanting you and keeping you safe are not the same thing. I am safer with you. Rowan looked directly into his eyes. Being separated from you. Leander's expression tightened. Do not say it. It hurts. Rowan. It is why I collapsed. Her name left him as a broken groan. Rowan kissed him again. Everything she had been afraid to admit poured into that kiss. Leander answered with the same desperate intensity. His fingers threaded through her hair. When they finally separated, his forehead rested against hers. If you do not leave now, he struggled for control. I will not be able to stop. Rowan looked into his gray eyes. Conflict burned there. If you want me gone. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. Then make me go. For one suspended moment, Leander stared at her. Then whatever remained of his resistance shattered. He kissed her again. Hungry. Certain. Without hesitation. Leander lifted Rowan effortlessly. She wrapped her legs around his waist by instinct. He carried her toward the bed without breaking the kiss. Then lowered her onto the mattress. His weight settled over her. Rowan's fingers found the buttons of his shirt. She needed his skin, needed the contact, needed him close after 7 days of unbearable distance. What followed was new and overwhelming for Rowan. Yet Leander was gentle with her, tender even when the desire between them burned fiercely. Every touch deepened the strange connection she had felt growing for weeks. Until nothing existed except warmth, trust, sensation, and the man holding her. When Rowan finally cried out his name, Leander's control broke with hers. His mouth found the side of her neck. Then his teeth sank into her skin. The mating bite. Instinctive. Claiming. The bond snapped fully into place. Rowan felt it. Warm. Golden. Certain. Something inside her locked perfectly into something inside him. A connection deeper than touch. Deeper than thought. Rowan's wolf surged forward. Acting on pure instinct, she marked Leander in return. His groan vibrated against her. The bond flared brighter. Complete. Sealed. They remained together for much of the night. Sometimes passionate. Sometimes slow. Sometimes tender enough to make Rowan's chest ache. Learning each other. Finally, exhausted, Leander rolled onto his back and pulled Rowan against his chest. His arms closed around her. Within minutes, his body relaxed. His breathing deepened. Sleep took him. Rowan lay against him. Joy swelled inside her. She had given him this. Rest. Peace. For once, the future seemed possible. Bright. Rowan closed her eyes. Sleep pulled her under. She woke surrounded by fog. Chapter 7. The fog was alive. Rowan understood that immediately. It moved with purpose. Cold mist pressed against her skin like unseen fingers. Everything about it felt invasive. Wrong. The air carried ash. Grief. Hopelessness. Leander! Rowan shouted. The fog swallowed his name. This had never been an ordinary nightmare. She knew that now. This place was a prison. A cage built to hold Leander and break him night after night. Rowan ran through the mist. Eventually, she found him. Leander knelt in a clearing where the fog thinned just enough to reveal the ground. Leander. Rowan rushed toward him. What she saw stopped her heart. This was not the king who commanded rooms merely by entering them. Not the alpha whose presence made warriors lower their eyes. Inside this place, Leander seemed smaller, stripped of strength, utterly defeated. Rowan dropped beside him. She reached for his face. Leander, look at me. He did not respond. Please. His eyes remained fixed ahead. Rowan followed his gaze. Figures stood inside the fog. People. Dozens. Perhaps hundreds. Soldiers wearing ruined uniforms. Civilians bearing wounds that could never heal. Shifters in human form whose eyes reflected nothing living. Understanding hit Rowan. The dead. Her voice trembled. They never leave you alone. More figures became visible. So many. Of course. It had been war. How many people had died? The ghosts remained silent at first. Then whispering began. Voices overlapped. Accusations. Grief. Anger. Sorrow. Some cried. Others screamed. Leander simply stared at them as though he had forced himself to witness their suffering every single night. Come. Rowan grabbed his hand. We need to leave. He did not move. Then the bond opened wider. Pain crashed into Rowan. Leander's grief. His guilt. The force of it nearly dragged Rowan down beside him. Then that guilt sharpened, focused on one figure. A young woman stepped forward. Small, gentle eyes. A wound marked her chest. Blood covered the white cloth held in her hands. Leander's breath broke. Ada. Rowan looked at him. Who is she? The bond suddenly flared. A memory exploded into Rowan's mind. The young woman running toward a battle line, holding a white cloth above her head, her face frightened but determined. She was trying to surrender. Trying to negotiate peace for her people. Someone shouted. Warriors moved. Confusion spread. There was a moment of hesitation. Only a moment. But too long. Then Ada fell. The white cloth remained in her hand. Surprise and betrayal crossed her face. The memory shifted. Leander held her body afterward. Horror consumed him as he understood what had happened. What he had failed to prevent. I'm sorry, Leander whispered toward the ghost. Rowan understood. Ada was not only Ada anymore. Inside Leander's mind, she had become every innocent person lost during the war. Every civilian casualty. Every life he believed he should somehow have protected. A memory echoed through the hollow. These are casualties of war, Your Majesty. Someone had said it to him. Perhaps an advisor attempting comfort. Leander's reply came as a roar. She was a person. Tears filled Rowan's eyes. Now she finally understood what the curse had done. It did not merely show Leander death. It fed his grief. It magnified every wound. It found his guilt and poured poison into it each night. Ada's ghost looked at Leander. When she spoke, her voice was gentle, almost kind. That made the words more terrible. You could have stopped it. Leander flinched. You should have seen me. Her blood-stained fingers closed around the white cloth. A better king would have. She stepped closer. This blood is on your hands. No. Rowan moved between them. She grabbed Leander's arm. It was not your fault. He did not look at her. You went to war because Ragnar rejected peace. Rowan shook him. You were trying to protect your people. Her voice broke. You did everything you could inside an impossible situation. Then Rowan understood something worse. Those accusations were not truly Ada's. They came from Leander. The curse had taken the guilt already living inside him and given it faces, voices, bodies. Every night it forced Leander to listen to the things he secretly believed about himself. Silvara's words returned. You cannot save someone who refuses to be saved. Rowan looked at Leander. His head lowered. His palms pressed against the strange, soft ground. Through the bond, Rowan felt what was happening inside him. It was not fear. It was agreement. Leander believed every accusation. You think you deserve this? Rowan whispered. Leander remained silent. Horror spread through her. That is why the curse keeps getting stronger. Rowan stared at him. You are not fighting it because part of you believes you should suffer. The bond answered for him. Yes. Leander believed Ada's death was a debt. So were all the other deaths. And he believed he had not yet paid enough. Rowan did not know how to fight something like that. She knelt beside him. What happened was terrible. Her voice thickened with tears. I am not going to tell you it wasn't. Leander slowly lifted his head. Their eyes met. Every defense had disappeared from him. She ran toward the line. His voice trembled. She carried a white cloth. Leander swallowed. She was trying to surrender. His eyes filled. And I did not see her in time. Rowan felt every bit of his guilt through the bond. It nearly broke her heart. You were not enough to stop it. Leander flinched. Rowan tightened her grip on his hand. But no one could have been enough. He stared at her. That is not failure. Rowan's tears fell freely. That is the truth of war. She leaned closer. It does not mean you did not care. It does not mean you wanted it. And it does not mean you deserve to be tortured forever. Leander's expression crumbled. Rowan drew a breath. My parents abandoned me. He went still. For years, I thought it meant something was wrong with me. Her voice shook. I thought if I had been better somehow, maybe they would have kept me. Rowan looked toward the dead surrounding them. But that is not how it works. She turned back toward Leander. I deserve to stop living inside that abandonment. Her fingers tightened around his. I deserve to heal. Then Rowan looked toward the ghosts. So do you. She took another breath. And so do they. The dead watched. You are all trapped here. Rowan's voice strengthened. But Leander can release you. She looked back at him. Tears covered his face now. Let her go. Rowan held his hand tightly. You are allowed to put this down. For several seconds, nothing changed. The fog did not move. The dead waited. Then Leander's fingers tightened around Rowan's. He looked toward Ada. I am sorry. His voice broke. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. The fog shifted. I'm sorry for all of it. Something changed in the air. The mist began to thin. One by one, the dead turned away. Their bodies faded into gray, like breath vanishing on a winter morning. Their voices weakened. The accusations disappeared. Ada remained longest. She looked at Leander, then closed her eyes, and faded. The fog began dissolving. Leander collapsed forward. Rowan caught him. His entire body shook. A year of grief and guilt finally broke open. Rowan wrapped both arms around him. I've got you. She held him tightly. I've got you. Rowan woke in darkness. Real darkness. Warm darkness. Leander's bedroom. His arms around her. She blinked, disoriented. Her heart still raced from the hollow. Leander was awake. He looked down at her. Tears filled his eyes. But he was smiling. A small smile. Fragile. Real. He raised one hand and touched Rowan's cheek. His thumb wiped away tears she had not realized were there. Thank you. Rowan smiled. Fresh tears slipped free. They held one another in the darkness. Between them, the bond hummed warmly. Epilogue. The curse did not vanish overnight. Leander still had nightmares. His guilt did not disappear simply because he had finally chosen to release part of it. Grief did not work that way. Neither did healing. But Rowan remained beside him. Whenever Leander woke in darkness, she was there. She held him. When he needed to speak, she listened. Slowly, painfully, Leander began talking about the war. One night Rowan held his hand and told him, "You are allowed to remember them." Leander looked at her. "You are allowed to grieve for them." She rested her head against him. "But you are also allowed to live." It took months. The nightmares became less frequent. Night by night, Leander learned how to sleep peacefully beside his mate. Life at court was more complicated. A foundling herbalist becoming the Alpha King's mate was not something anyone had predicted. Whispers followed Rowan through halls. She felt the weight of every stare when the bond was officially announced. She felt it even more strongly on their wedding day. Rowan stood before the entire court wearing borrowed finery and promised herself to a king. Through all of it, Leander's hand remained steady around hers. His voice did not waver when he spoke his vows. Later, inside the privacy of their chambers, he held Rowan close and murmured against her temple. They will become accustomed to it. Rowan smiled. And if they don't? Leander's arms tightened. Then they can complain directly to their king. A pause. Who happens to be unreasonably fond of his mate? Months later, Rowan slowly woke to pale morning light filtering through the curtains. Leander remained asleep beside her. His face was peaceful, his breathing deep and even. One arm circled Rowan's waist even in sleep. There were no nightmares, no fog waiting to drag him beneath its surface. Rowan watched him quietly. Warmth spread through her chest. Then she settled closer against his shoulder. Her eyes drifted shut, and together they slept.